Alright guys, in this video today I'm going to be showing you exactly why you should be running a webinar funnel going into 2026, why it is the best funnel in 2025. Here you can see some examples of above one of my clients' webinars, below Iman Gadji's webinar where I believe he did about $20 million in 72 hours or something like that. And why all the big creators, why everyone is using webinars in general. First of all, of course, because they make a lot of money, right? This is just results for my clients, $120,000 in 72 hours. This was another webinar we ran where we were getting $80 of revenue per person who showed up, cash collecting over $60,000. And yeah, we're going to go over every single reason why you should be running a webinar. Now, number one is that webinars are a hugely trust-building conversion mechanism. If you have a big email list, pipeline, you've been running one-to-one sales calls for years, a free community, a Discord, or leads who simply have had a lot of sales calls and not closed, you can essentially hoover them all up and clean up your entire pipeline with a webinar. Because webinars are low commitment, they don't have to, normally they're free, you don't have to pay anything, you just have to show up, get some value, build a lot of trust with the offer owner, and those things, building trust and giving value, are the two things that lead to the most amount of conversions. So that's why you can pretty much hoover up your entire audience and also demonstrate that you are an expert in your field as a coach completely live. So people know, this isn't script, but you can be kind of scripted. That's what we do. But there are things that you can do and ways that you can teach that are just, only an expert would know this and be able to answer questions live and be able to do all of that live. And also, buyers need different conversion mechanisms. Not everyone wants to hop on a one-to-one call with a sleazy closer that tries to get them to sell their kidney. Not everyone wants to go through a ManyChat automation in the DMs or speak to a setter and then get booked in for a call. Some people need different conversion mechanisms. And also the reason why webinars are so trust building and efficient, as you see the second point, is because you can get 600 people to show up live with an average watch time of an hour and 50 minutes. That's fucking insane. They say you need 7 hours of watch time, 7 hours of connection with someone on YouTube, on Instagram, 11 different touch points, whatever it is, to get someone to convert. Well, you're building 2 hours of live trust with just a webinar, and with the previous content that they consume and the indoctrination that you can do beforehand with the webinar, it's pretty much a conversion machine. Now, point number two, efficiency, right? The reason why I've had clients who have made, $120,000 in 72 hours is because webinars are efficient. The reason Alex Hormozi made $100 million in the matter of a few days is because webinars are ruthlessly efficient. If you're a coach or consultant, you definitely don't or shouldn't be speaking to every single prospect live, one-to-one, on a sales call or on any sort of call, to everyone who's interested, who might be interested in buying from you. Because at the end of the day, people buy coaches, they buy you, not coaching. And so spending time live with your leads, with your audience on a webinar to build trust is the most efficient way to do so. And also, you can speak to everyone at once. You don't have to go one-to-one. And also, there's no downside to running a webinar. People think, if I try and hard sell all my audience on a webinar, there's going to be a negative. I recently ran a fitness webinar with one of my clients, Tanner, and his own current coaching clients were hyping up the coaching at the end because everyone got so much value at the start, and we presented the offer as simply an extension of our support that we could use to help them. And it was like, well, if you do want more support, here's this, but with every single piece of information that I've given you now, you can do this yourself. So we're giving them the wow and a bit of the how of how they can actually apply the knowledge of the coach. But for those of them who need more support, which is often a lot of them, when you build the gap correctly and you do it very discreetly, you get insane conversion, a very efficient conversion. And I think these two, the trust and the efficiency, are why people like Hormozi, Iman, Brett Scales all use webinars, right? Because they actually aren't scammy, salesy, or pushy. In fact, they're the least salesy and the least pushy, because a webinar is to thousands of people, hundreds of people. Everyone's just sat at home on their laptop, and they're not on a one-to-one call trying to convince people to give them thousands and thousands of dollars. They're simply making them an offer, and most of the time the offer is so good that the audience can't refuse. So it actually gives them a good reputation. Some people say, well, I can't run a webinar every week. Shelby runs a webinar every single week, and yes, she has the traffic for it, but once you have a webinar that converts well and follows the framework that I break down in other videos of mine, you can start running ads to them. You can get the ads profitable, start getting a good ROAS, and if you're bringing in new traffic every single week to a webinar, it's basically like a money printing machine. It's insane. Now, another reason why I love webinars is because of the higher close rate and the higher PIF rate. One of the recent webinars that I ran for my client Leo, that one that did $120,000 in 72 hours, I did manage and train and do everything with the sales team, all of the SOPs for that webinar. And I'm very proud to say that my closers had a 70% close rate on booked calls. And my closers were absolutely astounded with the quality of lead, how ready people were to buy. Even the triages and the SDRs that I trained and placed onto the offer said, well, I could have closed that guy over the phone. He was ready to pay over the phone. And they were astounded, and they were so grateful for the leads I was providing them, because the closing calls that they were taking from webinars were basically like cash collection calls or onboarding calls for clients. So imagine that you give your closers the opportunity, you give them the best time of their lives closing deals basically for fun to your whole team. That is a pretty, and also higher PIF rate. Like normally our cash collection rate is around 70% on this offer. So on average, we take 70% of the full amount of revenue that we generate for the offer. But on webinars, it was closer to 80-90%. So we were getting way more PIFs, way more trust was built, and people were way more likely to invest a lot of money working with us because they trusted us. And then number 4, I've kind of already gone into this in terms of, okay, it's very trust building, it's sufficient, you can run ads. But in my opinion, webinars are the easiest funnel to get a very good ROAS with, compared to like a standard VSL funnel, where there are although with a webinar there are a lot more moving parts. A webinar is a lot more replicable in my opinion. And yes, VSL funnels are evergreen, but the amount of creatives that you have to churn out now with the new Facebook update for a VSL funnel, the messaging has to be on point, the closes have to be on point. And I think that if you're an organic offer and you want to transition into paid, you want to look at webinars. You want to first run warm webinars to get an understanding of it. This is what I tell all of my done-for-you clients, right? I take on quite a few done-for-you webinar clients, so with big coaching companies that want to run webinars. And what I tell most of them is that if you're looking to transition into paid, the number one thing you want to do is run a warm webinar first, then maybe run a second one a couple of weeks later or a month later. Really make sure that your webinar itself is dialed, and obviously I take care of all of that for them, but you sometimes want to tweak the offer. Sometimes you want to go for a low ticket to upsell on the back end. Sometimes you want to go just to book a call. So there's various different tests that we do, and then based on that, when we know we've got, okay, this is a really solid fucking webinar, we can then really push the paid ads that we might have done a little of before. And with webinars, I'm getting the lowest cost of a call like I've seen from especially cold traffic, just because of the way that webinars convert and the show-up systems that we have in place to make sure that not only our webinar, like people are showing up for the webinar, but then they're showing up for their calls afterwards. And in general, compared to like someone who's watched a 10-minute, 15-minute VSL or barely watched it, compared to someone who's watched an entire 1 hour, 1 hour and a half presentation and then booked in a call, your calls are so much warmer. You have a way higher show rate. You're not dealing with closers complaining about this lead was, I had no idea what we do. This guy was just fucking funnel hacking, whatever it is. It is a lot better. And then should be number 5 instead of number 4. Webinars are super, super replicable. So you can use Lovable for landing pages. I give my done with you clients all of my templates, all of my SOPs on how to build these. Your thank you pages are very replicable. Your replay opt-in pages are very replicable. Even your checkout pages are super, super replicable. Like this checkout page was nuts. This is for the fitness offer. So everything can be pretty much replicated very easily for, especially using AI. So using Lovable, and then for the copy, not a lot, but some stuff you can use AI for. Like the webinar itself, you really can't use AI to a very high level. You can use it for the structure for sure, but the actual copy itself is where your 20% is that will give you 80% of the results. So you really have to dial that in yourself. That's what I do for all of my clients. But yeah, using AI, webinars are super replicable in the sense that once you build out the funnel, once you build out the tech, once everything is kind of aligned and you've run it once or twice, basically another webinar is just so easy to run, right? You build it once and you can use it forever, and it's a funnel that you can implement on top of a VSL funnel or on top of a DM funnel. It's not one or the other. Webinars are the perfect cleanup mechanism to inject cash into a business, because they take all of those people that didn't close with your main funnel, your evergreen funnel, and basically hoover them up. So some of my clients only want to do webinars once a month, once every 2 months, and they just use it to hoover up their audience and get a nice, 50K, 100K cash injection into their business. And once we build the tech once, it's basically ready, right? And then objections, why would you not want to run a webinar at this point after watching this video? Number one, setting up the tech is hard. Really, it's not. You need a few Zapier automations, you need email flows, and then you need a replay system. And once you've got it dialed, like I said, it's very replicable. In my Done For You offer, we do all of this for you. In my Done With You offer, I walk you through every step of the way. I can't sell high ticket on webinars. I've ran webinars where we've sold 7.5K offers, 5.8K offers. You just go to book a call. Yes, you're not going to send them directly to a checkout for $5,800. That's probably not going to work too well. But when you send them to book a call to get those last questions answered, it works very, very well. Webinars are too complicated. I don't have time. Webinars aren't simple. No. Well, they are simple once you've done them a lot, right? But for a beginner, for someone running them for the first time, it's very unlikely that your webinar is going to crush it if you do it yourself. And it is going to take up a lot of time. A recent call I had with 2 offer owners, they said they'd run a webinar last year for a kind of different offer where they spent 3 to 4 weeks building out everything. And that is really kind of how long it takes. So if this is you and you think, oh, I really want to run a webinar, but I don't have the time, it's going to be kind of complicated for me, my Done For You offer could be a fit in terms of we literally just take care of everything. It takes less than a day of your time. You simply give us the information on your offer, your case studies, kind of literally just a quick onboarding doc. You answer a few questions, you send us a voice note, we build out everything. We have one call to review it and to make sure you understand how to present, and then you present the webinar itself and you watch the cash go in. And that's kind of the same objection with how to write a good webinar presentation. However, in my previous video or in my future videos, I'm going to be going over exactly the framework that I use to write good webinars and some standard kind of best practices when it comes to writing high converting webinar presentations. So yeah, that is every single reason, in my opinion. There's probably a few more that I haven't covered, of why you should run a webinar, why these 4 people and like TGR, so many people are running webinars now because they're simply the best funnel. How you can make 120K in 72 hours. This is my custom tracking dashboard, by the way. All my clients get this. But yeah, if you want to become a client, if you want to speak to me one-on-one, hop on a call to see how webinars would look inside of your coaching business, or if you're a growth operator who wants to consult with me on running a webinar for one of your clients, get access to my landing pages, even my webinar predictor, where we can kind of break down, okay, how much can we expect to make from your first webinar or your second webinar? Yeah, booking a call with me below. I'm not going to hard sell you. I'm just going to have a conversation. And yeah, hope you got some value out of this video. Thank you for watching. Take care.